I'll start out with just the basic idea of the game. It's called, the game's disc golf. It's not frisbee golf. We do call it frisbee golf, but disc golf is the proper name. And with golf, you have a tee. So generally on a disc golf course, you have a cement tee or a teeing area, and you have the basket, which would be the hole in the ground for you golfers. So the idea is to get from the tee to the green and into the metal basket in the fewest amount of shots as possible. That's the idea of the game. And I would say that the most important rule is that you need to stay behind your disc every time you throw a shot. So when you're on the tee, you have to actually release the disc from the tee, from the teeing area, within the restraints of the teeing area. And on every shot after that, you have to keep your foot directly behind the disc with up to, what, 12 inches or 10 inches?
30 centimeters from the front edge.
30 centimeters from the front edge
so like
of the
a
disc.
foot.
So about a foot from behind the disc. So that, basically what that means is, if you get in a tough position in the rough or you're behind a tree, within the rules you cannot move left or right of your disc. You're supposed to put your foot directly behind the disc and stay behind your lie.
And how about etiquette? For the first-time player, what are some of the most important things to know? I mean, the one that occurs to me is that disc golf is pretty casual in that you can start, if someone's on the first tee in most courses, you know, they're informal enough that you can go off and start on another hole, but you don't want to be jumping on a hole right when someone's finishing the hole before and slowing them down. By the same token, just like ball golf, you know, bigger groups and slower groups should allow smaller groups and faster groups to play through it, right?
Exactly. And yeah, and if you're halfway up the fairway and you're in a group of 6 and you know your group's kind of playing slow and you look behind and there's people waiting for you, you know, it's just an etiquette, you know, on the next hole you should probably let them play through if they're a faster group or, you know, less people.
Okay.
That's just common courtesy.
And don't you find in disc golf too that most people are pretty cool about that?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, they know, and when you're a learner especially, you know, like us, if we saw some people out there learning how to play the game, you know, you have to, you know, understand that they're trying to understand the game that we love, and it took us years to get where we're throwing today, and,
yeah.
you know, of course a new player is going to be a little bit slower, and, yeah, just, okay. I think everybody understands that.
Super, thanks.
Yeah.
All right, so upcoming episode, we're going to be covering some actual demonstrations on how to throw the basic shots, drives, backhand, forehand, and putting style, so stay tuned.
What's up? Nice putt, nice putt. Come on, you serious? What? Are you serious? What? Trying to putt here? $1,000 on the line, you're gonna do this?
Yeah.
Coming at you, dog.
You gonna chase him, dude, or what? You got this, right? Get him, dude. Get him. Nice shot, dude. Nice shot.
That'll teach him.
What types of discs should a beginner use, and how many do you think he or she needs to carry when they're first starting out?
You should only carry, you know, a few discs, being, you know, 3 discs. You could work with 1 if it came down to it, but 3 discs you could work all the shots you need to on a golf course, using your typical 3, your driver, your mid-range, and then your putter. And for the types of discs, I wouldn't go with the fastest, farthest flying disc with a lot of speed. I'd look for something that's a little slower but more controllable, something that holds real good, slow, straight, flat lines. And for a mid-range as well, same thing. It's a nice straight disc for mid-range shots, up shots, and drives off the tee. And then a putter is always pretty much, for the most part, straight and controllable. And it's something you don't want to start working with too much speed, too much fast discs because they're not as controllable. Sure, you get a little more distance out of them, but you're not going to be on the fairways often either. So stick with your basic three, your driver, your mid-range, and your putter.
And show me an example of a driver versus a mid-range versus a putter.
Okay.
Let's let the camera get a good look at the edges too.
Well, first off, a driver is the sharpest and the most streamlined of all the discs you'll choose. It's a nice straight pointed angle. Lets it cut through the air real nice and goes a lot farther. Has a lot less resistance when it's cutting through the air. And just real nice low profile, nice and flat on top, sharp edge. There's your driver.
More aerodynamic, goes further.
Val's got some mid-ranges here.
Okay.
Here's the mid-range. It still is streamlined, but as you can see, it's a little bit more blunt edge. So that'll, when the wind hits it, it won't go completely, it won't go as far as the driver because it's not cutting through the air as quickly as the driver would. Yeah, and these tend to be a little bit more straight. Depends on which disc you get, but yeah, they tend to stay in the fairway, and these are good for when you're closer up to the basket and you don't want to throw as long of a shot. You got a putter?
Yeah, got the putter. The putter, as you can see, if you compare it even to a mid-range, is much more blunt. It's, if you look at all three here, you can see it's the most blunt-edged, frisbee-like of all the discs that we have here. It is designed for when you're on the green, for all you golfers out there. And yeah, it flies the slowest. It's the most controllable of all of the disc choices. And that's pretty much a putter. I would say that it's for within 50 feet, if you want to call the green 50 feet. I would say a mid-range is for 100 to 150, and I would say a driver's up to 200 to 250 for you brand new players out there.
Yeah.
What do you think's the biggest downside when you see someone that's obviously just starting out and they're carrying around a bag of 15 discs?
They don't actually know what all those discs do. When you have 15 drivers or a mix of drivers and mid-range, you don't know what they all do in certain situations, especially on a golf course. And the best way to start is start simple. Start with a couple discs, start with a couple drivers. It's even best to even go out to a field and throw shots and learn what those drivers do and how they finish, how they spin, how they fade, and just learn the basics. Be real patient and learn the basics before you start out there.
Okay, that was a pretty exhaustive answer. Do you two have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I guess I'd recommend getting a mid-range disc, which is between the driver and a putter. It's not gonna go left as much, what we call a hyzer if you're a right-handed person, and yeah, it'd be closer to a frisbee. That would be like your transition disc from a frisbee to a golf disc. It's kind of the in-between, and that's when you can really get to know that disc and know what it does and throw it.
Okay.
I would just say keep the confusion level low. Yeah, don't have very many discs. You don't need a ton to begin with. If it's your first or second time, you're just out there to have fun and just kind of learn what the discs do. You'll be amazed what different discs will do, but yeah, mid-range is definitely a good starting place if you're only going to have one.
Okay.
But if you're going to have two or three, I would definitely advise having a driver, mid-range, and putter.
When it comes to purchasing a disc at your local disc store, they don't always say and tell you what the disc does. And to recommend, when I'm saying a slow, straight driver, I would say anything where from a T-bird to a leopard
Or an Avenger.
and for even a mid-range being like a rock to a shark to a cobra.
Or a buzz.
You can find those in your local disc store, and then for a putter, always check out for an AVR.
Or a Challenger. Or a magnet.
Just real straight, controllable disc.
Would you recommend using those numbers that they put on the discs? Or, I mean, I know that they have some of those posters that say +1, 0.
Right. If you have access to the poster in the store, you can kind of base your game on those numbers and look what disc might fit your game. But a lot of times when you're starting off, you don't have the arm speed and the control, and they usually base those numbers off higher arm speed throwers, top level professionals and pro players. And even if you have to borrow a disc from your friend to try that disc out before you make a purchase and commit into buying a disc, try this out. Try out many different kinds of drivers before you find the one that works for you.
There are many different types of discs that do different things. This is an example of a driver with a pointed edge. This is an example of a putter with a more blunt edge designed specifically to go in the basket better. And this is a mid-range disc, which is something in between. Another aspect of the game that a lot of people aren't aware of is there are so many different ways to propel the disc and get it where you want to go. For instance, most people are familiar with the backhand throw, but you can throw it forehand, you can throw it over the top, and you can put your fingers in the middle and have it go one way, or you can put your fingers on the outside and your thumb in the middle and have it go a different way. And finally, one of my favorites, you can actually put the disc on the ground and make it roll to its destination, say in a case when you have a lot of low-hanging limbs, like this. Pretty cool.